Boston City councilors heard plenty of opposition yesterday to the proposed three strikes legislation. If approved at the State House floor, repeat offenders would lose the right to parole. Supporters say this will keep the most dangerous criminals off the streets, but opponents say it goes too far. The comments were from a hearing on the proposed resolution filed by Councilor Charles Yancey.
There are some crimes that are so heinous that are repeated that there should be serious consequences and people should go to jail for a very, very long time. So parts of this legislation might make sense, but there are going to be parts of it which we're going to push back really hard on because this needs to work well for the city of Boston. That's where the majority of the people will be affected by this legislation.
Black and Latino communities are disproportionately incarcerated, that is true. But we are also disproportionately impacted by violent crime. So I do want to make sure that those most violent offenders are going to be incarcerated, but we've got to eliminate mandatory minimums, particularly when we're talking about nonviolent drug offenders.
Before we pass any punitive legislation, particularly the mandatory sentencing features of the proposed three strikes bill, let's consider its impact, overall long-term impact on society.
Programs such as getting their GED or getting a trade while they're in prison, all that is getting cut. And in place of that, the new kind of focus seems to just be building more prisons and packing them with more people.
Evidence based on the three strikes law across the United States has demonstrated that it doesn't work. What it does is it builds more prisons.
The criminal or the offender is still a human being, and that particular offender is still a candidate for redemption. No matter how worse the crime is, I think we should begin to put into place some strategic programs that basically leads to rehabilitation and adequate reintegration.
92% of the people in prison are low income. They can't afford $85 a week supervision fees. They can't afford all of these costs. So the families pay this cost, and that just further devastates the families.
When people are released, they come back into the neighborhood, and so it helps all of us if they've gotten opportunities to get drug treatment, to have support around job training, to get their health needs met, and to be able to really rejoin us as productive members.
We also need to state what we do want. One aspect of the Senate bill is the actual sentencing reform, which means that we would lower the school zones, we would get rid of mandatory minimums for nonviolent drug offenders, and for those folks who are in jail now who are nonviolent drug offenders, they would be eligible for parole at 50% of their time.
We need to be able to find someone to reach the young folks in the city of Boston, fix the core family unit, and I believe that way they'll have a better chance and a more successful future, and never ever give up.